Officer. Safe farm loan. Perfect. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. These are kind of quarterly sessions. This will be the first one that we're doing here in basically fiscal year 2024. But we do these every single quarter. I know now is not a ideal time. Everybody's probably in harvest or trying to get end of year stuff done, which is totally understandable. But we thank y'all for being here. So we've got Farm Service Agency, we've got NRCS here, we've got the Risk Management Agency, and we do have somebody from RD here, but there won't be a presentation for rule development today. So that just gives you more of a reason to show back up next quarter and talk to them. So I'm going to kick it off. I'm just going to jump right into the thick of it. Does anybody have any questions before we start off? I like the sound of that. Okay, so I'll start presenting now. Mainly the reason, oops, sorry, 1 second here. Share my screen. All right. You guys see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So one of the reasons why we're starting off with FSA is a lot of the beginnings happen here. Getting a farm number, talking to your loan officer, talking to your program director in the area is really kind of that first step of the beginning farmer journey. So a lot of us have questions of, what can I grow? Where can I grow? How much money can I get for what I want to grow? And how big can I get? But a lot of the time, one of the things we need to do is sit down and talk to somebody about that. FSA is a great place to start. One of the main reasons for it is we're kind of the beginning step of getting your farm number so you can go and effectively talk to NRCS. NRCS has a lot of answers when it comes to what is my soil going to be able to grow? Is it alkali? Is it acidic? Can I grow blueberries? Can I grow corn? What's the best thing for me? And on top of that, it also has a lot of programs and opportunities for people to take and put their land into conservation. So if that's something you're interested in, hold tight. NRCS will be the last presentation of today, right after RMA. But where you're going to start is with FSA. What we can do is we can help you establish a farm number and basically get it to where we know where you're farming, we know that you're farming that piece of ground, and we can start to get you considered for certain programs. It doesn't mean that if you walk into FSA that you're automatically eligible for everything that we have. There are certain steps that we need to be taking before we actually get you eligible, okay? A lot of the times, one of the things I like to say for a beginning farmer is if anybody in the office gives you a no, it's not a no right now. It's a no until we get everything set up. So what I like to do with a lot of my beginning farmers is kind of build a roadmap, or basically start before you start. If you come in with a really interesting idea, I love to see new and beginning farmers, especially in the ag or the urban ag area, say, hey, I've got a little plot of land up in Portland. What I want to do is I want to come through and I want to grow shallots and I want to do this and I have a greenhouse, so I want to do kiwi too. It's all possible, but a lot of this is outside of what we normally do. FSA finances food, feed, and fiber. So sometimes when you talk about kiwis in the Pacific Northwest, it gets a little hairy. And when I'm talking about growing kiwis, because again, I use that example, we've actually had quite a few folks come and ask to do that. When you talk about growing kiwis, it's not something that I've seen in my portfolio before. So in order for me to say, yes, this is a good option for you, or no, this is a bad option for you, we got to know how many kiwis are you going to grow, how many kiwis can you sell, what does it cost you to grow those kiwis, and what kind of kiwis are you going to lose in the fray of everything. Same thing goes for shallots. Shallots aren't necessarily a commodity where I can point to a market and say, hey, you're going to sell X amount of pounds of shallots for X amount of dollars. It fluctuates. Also, people have contracts with local vendors. You may have been going to farmers markets. You may have been getting a premium price for some of your production, and that's okay. But I can't say that without you doing it before. So a lot of this comes down to without any proof in the pudding, it's going to be tough for me to prove what you're saying to the guy that's going to review my loans or to the person that's going to review the program. So that's something to always think about. When you start with FSA, one of the cool things, and we've just upgraded this site, is we've got a beginning farmer ranchers website essentially, and it takes everything that we can do for a new and beginning farmer and just amalgamates it into one place. So in order for you guys to find out, who do I need to talk to or who can I schedule a meeting with, that's a great place to start. If you just go to farmers.gov, you can click on that link here. I'll send this out into the chat after we're all done up, but you can click on that link. You can go in there. It has an agent locator. It has a list of all the programs that are available, both on the farm program side and the farm loan program side. And again, it's just a great resource for folks to go and start to do a little research. In the breakout sessions, I'll go deeper into this, but another great resource that we have is actually the National Agriculture Statistics Service. I stumble over the words, but we just call it NAS. So everything here is algorithm, or not algorithms, acronyms. So it's NASS. I can show you guys that site. And what it does is it takes a lot of the statistics that we use or are reported, and it takes it all and puts it into a big, pretty spreadsheet for you. So if you're curious, hey, how much alfalfa can I grow in Mount Hare County compared to how much alfalfa could I grow in Harney County, just talking Oregon specific, that's something that site can help you with. It's not just Oregon specific too. So it expands beyond the entire contiguous United States. I think it has Alaska and Hawaii in there too. I'm positive it has Alaska and Hawaii in there. But in order for us to get that information, a lot of it comes from you establishing that farm number, you reporting your acreage, and telling us what you produced on it. Now, a little caveat I'll have here is when it comes to farm numbers, especially in the urban ag environment, it's going to be a little bit of a hurry up and wait situation. We're working our best to see how urban ag fits in with FSA right now. That doesn't mean that you can't come in and start to talk to somebody about it. In certain places, and especially in places like Portland, where we have an urban ag county executive director, they're working really, really hard to see how do we establish farm numbers for farms that are 100 feet by 200 feet long. How do we do that? And so the first thing I'll ask is patience, but the second thing I'll ask is tenacity. Get in there, ask the questions that you need to ask, and if you have any issues whatsoever, or if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk you through and reach out to the necessary parties. So I'll jump into the farm, the FSA farm loan program side. That's really where I thrive, right? I'm a farm loan officer out in Mount Hare County, and we've financed a number of things. One of the funniest things we have is red worms out in Western Oregon. So again, when I say there's unique kinds of productions that we can do, we can. But a lot of that comes down to history. So when you're talking operating loans, one thing that is a sticker for a lot of folks, especially beginning farmer and ranchers, is that 1-year history requirement. Because I can get you up to $400,000 to help operate your farm. That means I can pay annual operating expenses. That'd be a 1-year annual operating note. Or I can help pay term expenses like buy equipment, buy cattle, do certain improvements on your real estate. But it really comes down to the useful life of the security. So if you're buying cows, these cows are going to be good for, hopefully more than 7 years. But a lot of times that's what we do. We give you a 7-year note. And again, we can go up to 400,000 on that. The second thing we can do is we can buy you real estate. We call them farm ownership loans. But one of the biggest stickers here is you need 3 years of experience. Now, 1 to 2 years of that 3-year history requirement can be substituted out for certain things, right? If you've got education, that'd be 16 credits of ag courses. We just ask for transcripts. Doesn't matter the grades. We just want to see that you have those credits. You can have military service. You can have substantial management experience, which really comes down to, did you act as an owner operator on a farm? So it wouldn't be the same, substantial management experience wouldn't be the same as saying, I had a group of 5 people out here, and what they were doing is they're setting water, and I told them where to go set it. Operating and owning a farm is so much more beyond that. It's writing bills, making feed plans, taking those feed plans and putting them into actions, you know, changing your protein builds in your beef cattle operation that you're managing. And a lot of it comes down to you explaining it to us. So the more you tell us when you say you have substantial management experience, the more we can use and get you closer to that 3-year history requirement. Another thing too, and it's new, and this is, I won't say up for debate or anything, but there's a SCORE group of folks. It's the Society Corps of Retired Executives. And what you can do is you can actually use them to mentor you through your farm journey, right? So what they do is they have certain folks on there that basically have done what you're asking to do. If you're asking to do a beef cattle operation, they have folks on there that have done it before. It's something that's new to us. So I've seen a little bit of success with it, and it can also substitute out that 3rd year of experience. So it's something that you'll want to talk to your local office about. But if you were to have 3 years of experience, no matter how we kind of piece that together, we can get you up to a $600,000 loan to buy real estate. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't walk out and buy a $1.2 million property. The thing is, I can only give you 600,000 of that. So some other things that we do, like the beginning farmer down payment loan, when we have a beginning farmer, which would be somebody in FSA's eyes that's farmed for less than 10 years, there's a program available where you put 5% down. We'll give you 45% of the loan amount. And then an external lender, a third-party lender, let's say a guaranteed lender like Umpqua, Columbia, I think Columbia's gone actually, but one of those external lenders, what we can do is they'll take and finance the remaining percent. It doesn't have to be 50%. It can be more than that. But we can only give you 300 and 150,000. It might have been updated from last year. We're still waiting for a lot more regulations, and there'll be a new farm bill coming out here soon. So this could change. But it's a good opportunity for somebody who has a little bit of cash to walk in and say, hey, I can't put down 20% on this property, but FSA will take a second lien behind that first lender, so that 45% that FSA fronts almost acts as a down payment for certain ag lenders. And again, that's something that you want to talk to your local office about. It can get complex, and I don't want to get too in the weeds talking about lien positions and payment priorities and all that jazz. But it's something that for a lot of beginning farmers that have resources from whether it be their job, stocks that they got lucky on, any kind of money that you can put down, that it's been really successful for us. So does anybody have any questions on the loans part? I'm going to get into how we can start to really get some history and some of the opportunities that FSA specifically has to help beginning farmers get that experience. But does anybody have any questions on that part?
Yeah, this is Brian Kausler. I have a quick question for you, Derek.
Yeah, you bet, Brian.
How do FSA rates compare to market?
So FSA, I'm going to say they're competitive, but realistically, we're the lender of first opportunity and last resort. So right now, I do believe rates are hovering around 5.25 for FSA, and I know that market rates are higher than that. But the rates aren't made to be competitive. I can't compete with a regular bank just because we're the federal government, right? So that'd be basically stifling competition. If you can get a loan from somewhere else, you got to go there and you got to get that loan. That doesn't mean they can't guarantee the loan, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But again, the rates are competitive, yes, but I'm not made to be competitive, if that makes sense.
Really, yeah. I just had some neighboring properties in the area say that FSA rates were super low, which, yeah, just trying to get educated on that. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Another thing too that we have available when it comes to rates is as these rates rise, we have something called a limited resource rate. So right now it's locked at 5%. Microloans also have that rate. So as these rates increase, if we see that your cash flow doesn't work at 5.25, but if we were to lower that rate to 5%, it would cash flow, then we can approve the loan. So they are really competitive, and especially when you're talking about a 0.25%, 0.5%, a full percent making the difference. we want to make those loans for folks that can't get them somewhere else.
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thanks for the question, Brian. That's fantastic. All right. If there's no more questions on this, I'll move on. This is one of my favorite things because I get a lot of frustration from beginning farmers saying, how do I get 3 years of experience? How do I, buy a farm or become a farmer without actually owning the farm? And one of the opportunities that we have here are microloans. So we do have microloans that are for real estate available, but again, it does carry that 3-year requirement. And again, let's go into the breakout sessions. Let's talk a little bit deeper about that if you're interested. But a microloan on an operating loan side, so anything for annual operating expenses or term operating expenses, the microloan can go up to $50,000. It doesn't require any history. What we do is we substitute that history out for a mentor, so somebody who's doing what you're asking us to do. And when it comes to a mentor, a lot of times, a lot of the offices are going to require a mentor's agreement. That agreement doesn't make that mentor liable for the debt. It just says, hey, I'm a cattle farmer and I'd love, Mr. Johnson to come out here and start cattle farming with me. And he's going to run X amount ahead with me. I've got a little deal here. I'll tell him what to do if he doesn't know what to do. I'll help him if he doesn't, if he gets lost or if he has any issues with the vet, yada, yada, yada. It's just an agreement with the person that you're going to be the mentee of. So again, it doesn't make anybody liable. They're not going to sign any promissory notes or security agreements. It just says, hey, I'm going to help this kid get started and see where it goes from there. So that's a great way to get history. A lot of the times what I see when beginning farmers come into my office and say, hey, I want a microloan, is they've worked for somebody on a cattle ranch or they've worked for somebody on a farm. And the owner of the farm says, hey, I'll give you an opportunity here. I'll give you a lease. If you can pay me for the lease, I'll let you farm on this land. The next problem is they can almost never get a loan from a bank. A lot of the times they need history, they need a certain amount of down or some kind of collateral to make it work. When you don't have that, this is a great thing to do. You can walk in, we can get you up to 50 grand for, again, either the annual operating loan, term operating loans, or an FO. But again, let's talk about that on a more personal level to get you started. So a lot of the things in Malheur County come down to hay or cows. So I see a lot of folks come in, they buy 30 head of cattle, they run them with their employer, they pay the lease with the remaining 50% because I don't have to give you only $50,000 for cows or only $50,000 for an annual operating note. I can say, all right, we're going to buy $30,000 worth of cows. There's $20,000 left over. I see that you need $15,000 to make it through the year and pay your expenses. So I'll give you a $45,000 loan, 30 of it's term, so that'll be a 7-year loan, and 15 of it is an annual operating note. A year from when we close is when you pay back that operating note and have the first payment on that term note. And then we can always go right back in, especially if you're under $50,000 of debt with FSA, and keep on doing microloans. Another cool thing about microloans is it actually doesn't eat away your eligibility. So when you come to FSA, the $400,000 operating loans, either on the term side or the annual note side, you have 7 years of eligibility. When you're a beginning farmer and you get a microloan, you will always have 7 years of eligibility as long as it's a microloan. It doesn't take away any of those years. So again, that's something we can talk about if it's something you're interested in, but wait till the breakout sessions and we can kind of get a little deeper into it. The last thing here on the loan side that is absolutely my favorite thing. This is why I go talk to FFA. This is why I go talk to 4-H. This is so I can get as many kids in there as possible to get these youth loans. One of the issues I see in the youth community today is, well, I can't afford a cow. I can't do this. I can't go participate in the fairs and raise a steer to show, or raise a pig, or raise a goat, or anything like that, because my parents and I don't have the money. FSA has the opportunity for anybody under 18, I believe. I think you can still get one when you're 19, but it gets a little hairy. Anybody under 18 can come in and get a $5,000 loan to buy a steer. And again, I can do it on the term side, and I can also do it on the operating side. So we could buy a fair steer. I could get you 2 pair And then that remaining $1,000, I can also get you to pay for your leases, pay for feed, or anything else you need that year. It gives a lot of younger folks who don't have that opportunity usually a good opportunity to start. And if you think about it, if you're a 10-year-old, because that's the minimum age got to be to get one of these, if you did that for 8 years, by the end of this, I mean, that's a $40,000 loan in a way or two. And you can really start to build a herd, especially for somebody that young to walk out of high school and have 20, 30 head. That's somebody that we see is going to be successful. Cool thing about youth loan too, a successful repayment of a youth loan counts as a year of history. So if you're 18, you have your 10, you have your 5 head, and you walk out and you ask me for an operating loan, those hurdles become that much less. Now you're still a beginning farmer because you started farming when you're 18, technically as an adult. But again, it takes a lot of those issues that we talked about earlier with experience, it takes them away. And it kind of really resonates with that, start before you start deal. It's not a no right now. I can't buy you 50 head when you're 15 years old, even if you could or not do it. But if you start when you're young and you start with something that you can actually bite and chew, and something that we can help you with when you get out, when you turn into adult, when you turn 18, we can start to grow that in a bigger and better way. All right. So let's move on. I'll quit harping on that. We have a lot of resources when it comes down to talking about farm loans programs. And again, I'm going to post this in the chat here so you guys have all this available to you. Emergency loans are available. And another new thing that we just came out with is the loan assistance tool. So you can jump in there, you can pop in your situation, and it'll help guide you through what you need, what kind of loans you need to ask for, and help you have a more productive conversation with your county office. Another thing too on that Beginning Farmer and Rancher website is it'll list all the county offices. Now, caveat here, not every county office in Oregon and most of the states have a farm loan presence. That doesn't mean that you don't have farm loan available. It just means that you still should schedule an appointment and get your farm number established, or at least start to talk to the FSA office. But then they can point you in the direction of, hey, this is the person covering your county. We do a lot of stuff over email. We do a lot of stuff over virtually now. I mean, here's this meeting. This works out fantastic for all of us. So that's something that we can get done. But still, go into your county office, even if they don't have a farm loan presence and you're looking for a loan, and talk to them. Again, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, reach out to me and I'd love to talk to you more about it. The one thing that I didn't touch on here or during the presentation was guaranteed loans. It's not something that I can ask for, and it's not something that you can apply for. It's something that an ag lender in your area, like Ag West, Umpqua, those folks that are doing those loans, they basically request to FSA. So if they say, they look at your situation and say, man, this guy's borderline approvable, but because of these certain things, we can't do it without an FSA guarantee. That's where it comes into play. The bank applies to me to get that guarantee. There's also a number of packagers that do that for us, and they work out fantastic. So if you have any questions, join me in the breakout session. We can go a little deeper into it. But again, it's not something that I can get done for you without the bank doing it first. The next thing here is farm programs. I'm not going to talk too much on farm programs. I know what I need to know to be dangerous when it comes to farm programs. But here's a link. Jump into it. There's a lot of eligibility. There's a lot of paperwork. That's one thing that you got to know about the federal government. There's going to be a lot of paperwork, but luckily we're trying to reduce that. So our applications for farm ownership and operating loans went from like 27 pages down to 14. So it's always about being better, and that luckily that's what the federal government is trying to do lately too. But take a peek at the farm programs. Without a farm number, you can't participate. And a lot of these programs that come out, like the COVID relief payments and some of the other more recent pandemic relief payments, you had to be an established farm. So even having that farm number, maybe not doing anything with it, will help you in the end run. We don't know what you're doing if you don't tell us. So that's really the best route to go. Okay. And that's all I've got on the farm loan, on the FSA side at least. And again, I'll be in the breakout session so we can talk a little bit more personally about it. Does anybody have any questions on that before we go? Anything for the group? Perfect. I'll take that silence as a no. That was a great presentation, Derek. We're all happy. All right. Now, next on board, I've got Anastasia Griffin from the Risk Management Agency. She's fantastic. She's the champion for a number of states. So if you ever have any questions on insurance, ask her, but I will let her go ahead and talk about that. I'm going to get your presentation going in 1 second, Anna.
Perfect. Thank you, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
So as he mentioned, my name is Anna Griffin. I have been with the Risk Management Agency for coming up on 9 years now. So, and of course, we do crop insurance. So a good portion of what I'm going to be going over is going to be relating to crop insurance, how you can get it, that kind of stuff. So with that, I'll just go ahead and jump in. So again, my name is Anna Griffin, and I'm going to be covering USDA Risk Management Agency. But before I begin, I'd like to go over the disclaimer with you. So the purpose of the following material is to promote awareness of risk management concepts and to highlight USDA's risk management products, features, benefits, and availability. This material does not change the content or the meaning of current policy provisions, filed actuarial documents, or approved procedures. Next. So, with that being said, the Risk Management Agency's vision is to secure the future of agriculture by providing world-class risk management tools to rural America. Next slide, please. Again, I'm from the Spokane Regional Office, and we administer the federal crop insurance programs in Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We also provide outreach to help farmers with risk management tools. So just as a little background on the relationship between RMA and the private insurance companies and agents. So RMA is responsible for developing and maintaining federal crop insurance policies. This includes determining the rates, prices, and yields for each crop at the county level every year. RMA is also in charge of compliance to prevent fraud or abuse. Private insurance companies and agents are responsible for selling the insurance policies to farmers and settling their claims. The federal government subsidizes the premiums to reduce the cost of crop insurance for farmers and reinsures the private insurance companies to share the cost of the claims. Next slide. So the federal crop insurance provides protection from production loss, price decline, or a combination of both for individual commodities. There are production and revenue plans of insurance, which are based on a farmer's actual production history. Area plans of insurance that are based on averages in an area, like by county. The Farm Service Agency also has a non-insured crop disaster assistance program that is known as NAP, and this is available in counties where RMA crop insurance is not available for a particular crop. Next slide. Now, why should you consider getting federal crop insurance for your farm or ranch? Well, it may help you to stay in business after a bad weather event or a low production year. The government subsidizes the premium to make it more affordable. And in addition, crop insurance provides some financial stability, and it also may improve access to credit. Production-based policies insure against yield losses due to natural causes such as adverse weather, wildlife, insects, and disease. If the harvested plus any appraised production is less than the yield insured, the producer is paid an indemnity based on the difference. Revenue policies provide protection against price decline or increase, or a combination of both, in addition to yield losses. Projected and harvest prices are used to establish your coverage and to determine whether you have a loss. There is additional premium cost for this added coverage. There are 4 phases of the crop insurance cycle each year. The insurance plan, level of coverage, and price are selected when you submit an application. It is important to know the sales closing and cancellation dates. These are the deadlines for buying or canceling your policy. There is also a date for reporting how many acres of the crops you plan to determine your premium. You have to provide a notice of loss to start the claim process. RMA may make program changes prior to the next year's contract change date. Next, I'd like to talk about getting started with crop insurance and the steps you need to take. There's a lot of risk management information on our RMA website. The website address is included at the top left-hand corner, and that's just rma.usda.gov. And in order to get started, you'll need a crop insurance agent. So at RMA's homepage, you can find an agent by clicking on Tools and selecting the agent locator as circled there in red in the screenshot. So next, you'll want to click on the first hyperlink entitled Find Local Insurance Agents with the RMA Agent Locator. And again, that is circled in red there. So here's a screenshot of the actual agent locator tool. So what you want to do is enter a location, and that can be either a city and state, it can be a zip code, it can be any kind of a location there. And then you'll also be able to sort by distance, agent name or agency, or by city. You can search by crop or livestock or both. And you can also search by additional language. I do want to point out that the default distance is 250 miles. So you may want to change that to something a little bit closer for more convenience. But again, you don't have to. You can search no limit on distance as well. And you can also run a search by a specific agent name or an agency name. So those are just some of the options that you can use in order to find an agent, a crop insurance agent. Next slide. Another thing that I wanted to share with you all today is what is available in your particular county. So there are a couple tools that you can use in order to find out what you have available. So this first one is called the County Programs. And again, that is available under the Tools tab there, circled in red. And once you click on that, you'll click on County Programs, which is just underneath the cost estimator circled in red. Next slide. So as an example, I have selected Commodity Programs up at the tabs, and Commodity Programs is the tab in the middle there. You can also run a search by livestock programs, dates, programs, etc. And again, just as an example, I input the commodity year 2023. I put in blueberries and Oregon. So that will show you where the blueberry program is available. So you can run a search depending on what specific crop you're growing, and you can find out if that's available in your specific county using this tool. There's also another tool that we have that's called the Actuarial Information Browser. And as Derek mentioned, we do like to shorten things into acronyms. So we invariably call this the AIB. And this is located, again, also under Tools from our website. So this tool is going to show you what crops are available in what counties. And it also includes a lot of additional information, most of which is again going to be that actuarial information, such as dates, county transitional yields, subsidy information, etc. Next slide. So this screenshot of the AIB shows the landing page that you'll reach when you click on that. Please do note that you can change the order of how you search. So I've circled that in red with those numbers. You can change those numbers around, and it is actually, by searching in this particular order, you can see what's available in your county without knowing any other information. So by searching under reinsurance year, then commodity year insurance plan, and then you can click on your state or county. It's just one way of searching that information. But again, all 5 of those you can adjust around to search different ways. So that will show you that. And if you go to the next slide, I've got another screenshot of the AIB. And this, again, will show you, I have as an example in Umatilla County, Oregon, some of the crops that are available in that county, such as microfarm, which is a new program that we have. I'm actually going to put some fact sheets in the chat that will give you a little bit more information about some of our particular programs. But again, this actuarial information browser will show you what is available in your particular county. Next slide. So this is a screenshot of what the AIB will look like when you've input some of these parameters. Again, this shows the actuarial information, and you can click on the tabs you'll see there that will show you particular information. So right now I've got the tab clicked on for rates, but you can also search and look at the dates. You can look at any maps that we might have in the county. You can also take a look at the subsidies that we have, and all of that information. All you have to do is just click on those tabs there at the top. But again, I do want to say that your crop insurance agent will be able to help walk you through this. Oftentimes they might be doing some of this in conjunction with working with you. So your crop insurance agent is, in fact, your first avenue of information when you're considering which products to purchase. Next slide. Screenshot of our RMA homepage, and it shows also where you can find more information that's specific for beginning farmers. And I've just located that there with that red arrow. And then I just wanted to give just a brief snapshot of what is available for beginning farmers and ranchers with RMA. So we do have the benefits available for BFRs would include additional premium subsidies and exemptions from the administrative fee for catastrophic policies. So you'll see some of those other benefits there on the screen. And then I just wanted to let you all know or give you all my contact information. I will also put this in the chat, but you can certainly feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if you have any issues with the agent locator. But we do have that the list of agents that are available to help you purchase your insurance policies. So and maybe next time I'll go into a little bit more detail on some of the specific policies and programs that we have available, such as whole farm revenue protection or microfarm, which are 2 of our newer policies and programs. But for now, I just want to thank you all, and I'll be available afterwards during the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Anna. Insurance is paramount to what we do. I think we all know, especially if you're actively farming now, that we're not farming for this year necessarily. We're farming for next year. Insurance isn't here to make you money. It's here to protect you so you can farm next year. So thanks again, Anna. And again, she'll be in those breakout sessions. So when you guys are all done with the Natural Resources Conservation Services presentation here, where you can ask her any kind of questions you got. Now, I stop my screen share here so I can bring in Wallace and we can start talking about NRCS and what they all do. So I'll pass it off on to you, sir. I thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, can everyone see that presentation there?
We can, it's not in presentation mode. We can see the slides listed on the left-hand side.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and so this is just for the state of Oregon. It's divided up into basins, so just depending on where you are, you know, that would correspond to the basin. The basin that I am covering is essentially the Central Coast Upper Willamette Basin, so that includes Lincoln, Benton, and Lynn County, all the way down towards the border, so Curry, Josephine, Jackson County, and then Stephanie Payne, who also is joining us. She's the urban farm specialist up in the Portland area. She works essentially in the what's called the Lower Willamette Basin, and then I'm the urban and small farm specialist for essentially the Lower Willamette Basin. So the way that NRCS, the way that we implement conservation on the ground is we have a what's called a conservation initiative strategy. And so there's an interactive map. So depending on where you are in the state of Oregon, you can find your county and find out, you know, what's going on in your county as far as, you know, what the local staff is working on and what the resource concerns they identified in those communities. And so I'm going to follow this link here, and I'll bring it up here, and we'll just take essentially one example. And so here I've followed the link to our interactive map, which is online, and I'll zoom in to say I'm located in Benton County, and I will. So here is essentially a conservation initiative strategy we've been working on. And so this one is entitled Local Food and Food Systems Resilience Initiative. And if I follow that, it will give me more information. And essentially how these initiatives work is usually there's a resource concern that is identified through meetings that we have with partners, and then local residents and producers. And then we put together essentially a strategy to address those resource concerns. And then here, as you can see, the project description, and then some of the conservation practices that we offer to help mitigate those resource concerns. And then we have essentially our partners that we work with, and then we have essentially ranking criteria so that we can you know, best fund projects and make sure that there's equity and equal opportunity for everyone who wants to apply to these programs. And then I'll go back to my presentation here. And so the local foods initiative, essentially, I'll just take a little snapshot out of you know, the broader state and just look at just this local initiative. And so in the counties, the upper Willamette, so Central Coast, and those 9 counties listed, the local foods initiative, basically what it's trying to do is take a strategic approach at working with urban and small farm producers that are in, you know, local markets that are producing through CSAs, which are community supported agriculture, and look at ways that we can help with, you know, their plant productivity and health, habitat for pollinators, and then address organic matter depletion by implementing, you know, a host of practices, which include like high tunnels, low tunnels, conservation cover, and like planting pollinator hedgerows, for example. The conservation implementation strategies, like I said, you know, we work with our local communities through what's called local work group meetings. And so if you're not aware of a local work group meeting, where you can participate. Those are always available online. You can always contact your local NRCS office. Those are usually offered in the fall, early spring, and you're able to meet the local staff there, bring up your concerns for the community that you're in, and then that way the NRCS is able to take your input and partner input and come up with these local initiatives, or essentially these conservation initiative strategies. And we take environmental quality incentive program dollars and invest it into the communities that each local office is serving. So the environmental quality incentive program, and for sure we're just going to call it EQIP. You'll hear me say that a lot. Its main focus is to assist the farmers. So basically, the producers, farmers, landowners, historically underserved producers, they're able to access Farm Bill dollars, and that's through working with the NRCS programs. And we also provide technical assistance. So there's technical assistance and financial assistance that's available to you as a producer, and they encourage environmental enhancement. So basically, there's a resource concern that's identified, and then we take a strategic approach in which we can implement, practices like everyday practices, like whether you're gonna say, for instance, there's an area that has a lot of animals moving through an area and becomes highly congested, and there's like mud, and so you might put something like a heavy use area where you can put gravel and rock, and that helps reduce soil erosion and helps with water quality and water, keeping the animals from having a bunch of mucky feet. The environmental quality incentive program, we have essentially different national initiatives. And so, we have the High Tunnel Initiative, organic, on-farm, and there's a number of ones that are coming out all the time, and it's always, evolving over time. One that we started in 2000, I believe it was 2022, was the conservation incentive contracts, or the CIC program. And that really was focused on drought on cropland. And since then, that has been a really good program. And so if that's something that you're interested, contact your local NRCS office, and you can talk more about, how you can implement that program on your working lands. The Organic Transition Initiative is available to anyone who's, essentially they have organic certification, they're transitioning, or they're under an exemption, depending on how big your operation is. And there's a really cool mentor program and direct farmer assistance. And what I like about the Organic Transition Initiative is that it really just helps, people who are trying to get certified, or people that have, had a lot of experience, pairing those together. So if you're newer to organic farming, you can always find a mentor, near you, or you can, contact your local staff to figure that out. The Conservation Stewardship Program, this program is actually going to improve a bit. So usually there's a minimum payment about $1,500, but it's going to probably increase to about $4,000. And so that's going to be really, really a good benefit to especially smaller producers, where there's a lot more input and there's a lot more carryover for you, just because your operation is smaller. So typically it provides annual payments for about 5 years, and there's always an enhancement activity. So whether that's a management practice like a grazing management, water management, or nutrient management, you would usually have that in combination with other, practices. And so you would just work with, your local contact to go over, what you're currently doing as far as your operation, your farming, everyday farming activities, and come up with a plan to look at what the resource concerns are and how you're going to address those through this program. One other program that we have under the NRCS is our ALE program. So that's essentially an agricultural land easement. And so you can think of that as, say, your land is really close to an urban growth boundary. This program might be something you would consider, if, say, for instance, the government was going to use like eminent domain or something like that, where you want to keep your ground in agriculture into perpetuity. You would enroll in an ALE, and usually that's with a partner. They usually have like those buy to protect sell transaction, and so in those cases, you'd work with an eligible partner, and what they'll do is they'll help with the purchasing of the land through the NRCS, and then essentially it goes back to a partner or producer. And so usually there's an eligible farmer that might own a land that might not have the capital to enter into an easement, so a partner might come along and help with that transition. And so that's what a buy, protect, sell transaction is. And then we have our wetland reserve easement program, and those are basically the landowner will always retain the ownership of the land, but the NRCS might buy, say, the management rights into perpetuity, or maybe like a 30-year lease, which will try to restore whatever wetlands that we see, whether they're uplands or lowland wetlands, and try to restore it to its most natural condition to benefit the wildlife. Our Regional Conservation Partnership Program, or RCPP, unlike the EQIP program, the RCPP program is really focused on the partnership part. And so the partnership piece, as we talked about earlier about the conservation initiative strategy, so that was here, I'll go back a couple slides here. So this map, this conservation initiative strategy map, has all these different funding strategies or initiatives through public comment and from partners. We might take a strategy like this one here, this local foods initiative, and might take it to a broader level, or an RCPP. And so the way that works is a partner would then take a program and expand that to a larger area. And so instead of being one or two counties, it might be essentially like half the state or something, or essentially a larger area. And that would be a different way of funding that, because the partners can come up with different kinds of money and kind of mix it, unlike the EQIP program. Commonly used practices might be here on this list, but this is not a exhaustive list. These are just some of the things that I just thought off the top of my head that we'd list here. And so we talked earlier about a heavy use area and how that would be used for, ensuring that, the ground is solid for, heavy use areas, if there's cattle or cars or something moving through an area. And here's a picture of a high tunnel. And so, that's something that a lot of people have been interested in doing. So essentially that resource concern identified as plant productivity and health, and the resource concern is addressed by extending the growing season by installing a high tunnel. Pollinator hedgerows are essentially used to improve the habitat for pollinator species. So you might plant hedgerows, and here you can see these bare roots plants are being put into the soil, and usually those are native plants. And this next photo here is a planting on a CREP project that where they're putting in trees into an area that had been recently cleared, and the invasive species are essentially going to be addressed by planting trees and then trying to control the brush. Catchment system for irrigation, and then here's a watering trough over a heavy use area, essentially for cattle to drink. So the research concern would be like inadequate water for livestock, and then installing this essentially watering trough would so the animals could drink. I was going to talk a little bit about our Oregon application cycle. So if any of these programs are something that you're interested in, there's usually an application deadline, but we receive applications year round. So anytime there's a deadline, say you miss it, you can always send an application at any time during the year. Usually the application form is a CPA 1200. So that's your application for any of these programs that we discussed today. And then, like Derek said earlier, you would register with the Farm Service Agency to get a farm and track number. And that would ensure that, you can participate, because eligibility for programs are determined by the Farm Service Agency. Our application cycle this year, November 17th is the official last day to apply for any of these programs. And then you would apply with the CPA 1200, or essentially a application form. And so whether that's for the EQIP program or any of the other ones, you'd apply with the CPA 1200. The eligibility deadline is December 22nd. So that's when you want to have all your paperwork into the Farm Service Agency. And you want to have your entity, or if you're going to apply as an individual with your social security number, you would apply with your local FSA office. Assessments and ranking deadline is about February 23rd. So by February, you want to already have a conversation with the NRCS staff, where they're able to conduct a site visit, where you can walk through and talk about, some of the resource concerns you identified, and then how you're going to, whether that's going to be financial assistance or technical assistance. And then March 29th is the pre-approval deadline for applications. And when you're applying for the NRCS, we mentioned the 1200. Usually if you're going to send an application in, always try to attach a map so that they're able to find your property. And if you have any entity documents, and two forms that you typically might want to start earlier on is form 1199A, which is essentially a direct deposit form. So any monies you received from the federal government, they would be electronically sent to you. So that's what the form is for. And then a CPA 1257. So that's just landowner concurrence. This form, CPA 1257, isn't the only way to prove that you have concurrence from the owner. If you're an operator, say for instance, this is the only time that you would need this form. But if it doesn't fit, this is the way that we've tried to make it easier for you. If it doesn't fit, there's always other ways that we can look at ownership, whether that's through a written form like a lease or something. But essentially, CPA 1257 is for practices that that they're eligible for. So establish eligibility with the FSA. There's essentially 4 forms. And so as you work with your local staff, these forms, you'll essentially discover what they are, but they're essentially the 80-20-47, which is the landowner database form. So that's the form that everyone fills out, that just, you're putting your contact information. And then there's the highly erodible land form, and your annual gross income form, which goes to the IRS. That's how you receive your 1099, because any federal money you receive from the government is taxable income. And then 901 or 902 essentially is for your farm establishment. And I just want to end with that the USDA is an equal opportunity provider, employer, and lender. Any questions?
Brilliant. Wallace, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
We've been lucky enough to have you and have you fill in while we've been working to get a new champion for NRCS. And I do thank you so much. That was great. And I think you guys can kind of see too, I'm sure Wallace can speak to this. There's a lot that we can do for you, but it really comes down to starting before you start, right? Getting that farm number established, getting that appointment, and learning what works for you and what would really work for your production and what you're doing. So we've got a few minutes here left. We're going to go over just a few minutes. I wanted to take the chance to not only thank Wallace, because he's been filling in for NRCS to basically take over that piece for the champion. We lost Kathy Ferg about a year ago. She retired, nothing bad, but she retired. She was the coordinator before, and she was fantastic. So thank you again, Wallace, and thanks Lord too for helping to put all this together. Now, I'd love to introduce Will. Will Fett, he was I believe, Will, you were doing outreach over in Indiana. Is that correct?
Yeah, just moved to Oregon from Indiana. And so I am the Natural Resources Conservation Service Outreach Coordinator, and very happy to be here, excited to work with beginning farmer ranchers throughout the state. I just wanted to quickly highlight a couple of things that Wallace had mentioned. First and foremost, the deadline for EQIP, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, is November 17th. So if you haven't already had a conversation with a district conservationist and you started that application process, there's still time. You can still get into that system. But specifically for beginning farmers, there are benefits to you in applying for NRCS programs. First and foremost, beginning farmers receive a priority consideration for funding. And that means that in the application process, number one, if you are a brand new client of NRCS, a brand new producer, have never worked with us before, you will receive additional points in the ranking process. And that kind of bumps your application up to the top of consideration, and really allows you a better chance of receiving a contract. So these are cost sharing contracts, and there is a limited amount of money. So not an application does not guarantee payment, but as a beginning farmer, you have a much higher chance of receiving a contract. Number two, you can receive a better payment rate. So again, cost sharing means that you do have a little bit of skin in the game and will be responsible for a certain amount of the final cost of implementing that conservation practice. But for beginning farmers, that could be as low as 10% on you. The rates vary depending on which practice you are choosing to implement, but roughly, I say usually 90% is NRCS funded and 10% is producer funded. Whereas if you aren't a beginning farmer, if you don't qualify as a beginning farmer, that might be a 75-25 cost share. And then third, you are eligible for advanced payments up to 50% of the cost of implementation. So what that means is these practices take money to implement, and you can receive payment ahead of time rather than through the traditional reimbursement process. So those are just some things to really keep in mind, that the conservation programs do allow benefits for beginning farmers, and would really encourage you to consider those. One other thing I want to share is coming up on October 31st, there is an additional beginning farmer rancher training for military veterans. So any military veteran who is out of service within 10 years is also classified as a beginning farmer under the NRCS definition. So there's a specific training coming up for military veterans. Anybody on the call, Derek just dropped the link in the chat to that. October 31st, mark your calendars for that. With that, I'm going to wrap up my comments, and I think we go into breakout next. Derek, is that right?
That'd be right. And thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to have you on. We're excited to have NRCS and have the whole kind of beginning farmer and rancher team all complete now.